What's the creepiest thing an ex has done? In high school, my ex-boyfriend cut my name into his arm with a box cutter. When his stepmom saw it, he told her I coerced him into doing it. Oh no. Let herself in my side door after we had broken up, sat on my bed in silence, waited for me to wake up, just staring at me in the dark. I was so terrified, not knowing who it was. My adrenaline went off and I pushed her off the bed and across the room. She said I'm sorry, and let herself out. I've locked the door every night since. This was 3 years ago. Out of all these replies, yours is the creepiest, gave me shudders. He broke into my second floor apartment through a window while I was out of town, tracked dirt through my apartment, took a bath, didn't drain the tub, and left. He called me and told me he was going to break in. I didn't believe him. So weird. That's some passive aggressive balls. A year after a breakup, I met a girl at my university. One fateful day I was accompanying my crush to her seminar room. When we said goodbye, what was supposed to be a quick hug turned into a kiss. I took the tram home, heartfelt music blasting from my earplugs, a whole lot of butterflies in my stomach when my phone rang. It was my ex. She screamed from the top her lungs. "WHO the frick do you think you are, you fricking butthole? You are my boyfriend. How dare you kiss that little W? I know where she lives." I was absolutely dumbfounded and, frankly, horrified. Not only did my ex not go to my university, but we hadn't spoken for months. She knew the name of the girl, she knew what she was studying, and she knew where she lived. Even I didn't know where she was living. To this day I have no clue how she knew all these things. Oh, and by the way, she was the one cheating on me, effectively killing the relationship. She spread a false rumor about me freaking trees, and then went through all the effort of photoshopping pictures of me doing so. Bruh, someone gave this guy a tree hugger award. She lied about being pregnant, ruined my life for a few months. When everyone figured out she wasn't pregnant, she admitted to lying. Went and got herself a new boyfriend and got pregnant from him. He has my same name. I only had one girl fake a pregnancy. She then said she lied and just missed me. I changed my number and never heard from her again. She was a snoop. The times I left her alone in my apartment, she'd go through my things, my financial records, which I keep in a filing cabinet, my dresser drawers, my closets. I only discovered that she did it when she slipped up and revealed information she'd only have if she snooped. Thoroughly explained to me how he studied negging and how he used it on me. Also called me 50 times one time because I wouldn't return a text. While we were dating, in 2018, my ex, then 25M, met another girl, then 21F, on an intercity bus. They chatted and he grew very fond of her, but he only got her name. He had then made a fake Facebook profile and was looking through people with the same name for about 2 months until he found her. She has a really common, international name, so he must have combed through hundreds and thousands of girls to find her. It probably took him hours and hours of searching. Eventually he cheated on me with her, confessed everything, and we broke up. But this isn't even the creepiest part. A year ago, a friend of the girl got into contact with me to tell me that the girl wrote her friends and family huge messages about how she won't be needing them in her life anymore and will only need him, my ex, from then on. From what the friend told me, this was extremely out of character for her, because she had been really lovely and friendly with her family and friends. This came totally out of the blue, after being a bit distant for a few months beforehand. From that point she became practically untraceable. The ex and the girl live in another country, so with COVID it's been even harder to get a hold of her. Not as bad as some of the horror stories in this thread, but he made a troll account and harassed me on Twitter for a while. I knew it was him because the profile picture was a picture of him with a freaking Snapchat filter over it, as if that was going to completely shield his identity. He's not the brightest bulb. About as sharp as a marble. Broke into my house, left an engagement ring on my bed and a note saying how he'd masturbated in my sheets because they smelled like me. This was all after I broke up with him. Went through my phone when I was asleep and texted every female I save everyone on my phone using their full government names. That she was my girlfriend and they'd better back off or she'd come after them and do them physical harm. The thing is, the only numbers I have on my phone are all family, So I received multiple texts and calls the next day asking if I was okay or being held hostage. Please tell me you broke up with her, like, that day. My ex dumped my butt for another guy, so I moved on with my life. She had no idea where I was or where I moved to. I found a padded envelope in my mailbox one evening. I checked the mail earlier but it wasn't there. There was no return address. It had postage on it but no date stamp, so I know it didn't go through the post office. Someone must have dropped it off after I got the mail. I opened it and the smell of my ex's perfume hit me. Inside was folded black tissue paper. Inside the black tissue paper was a dead rose and some glitter. In my mind I was thinking, I know this is from so and so. Does she want me dead or something? What the heck, I had no idea how to interpret this. I know she didn't want me back because she never answered her phone, text, or email. I'm guessing she was just taunting me. It made no sense whatsoever. We became friends again after a long while. I once asked her what that was all about. She has no clue why she did that. I think she was embarrassed and wouldn't tell me the real reason. We EI'd. Went to see Endgame. Turned my phone off. Came out and got a text from my mom asking I was okay. Then all the other texts came in, accusing me of blocking him, hating him, etc. He sent me probably 10 texts, a few messages on Snap, a message in Facebook, emailed my school and regular email. I called my mom and she told me he had called them and told them he was worried I had harmed myself. Pretty sure I almost got the cops called for a welfare check while watching a movie and having my phone off. I was 20. I'm not on Facebook and never have been, but I had an ex make a fake Facebook page as me while in a new relationship. He would post pictures of himself saying things like "I'm so in love with my man, I love you baby," and post videos of himself doing boxing training and write "I need a man that can protect me," etc. Someone told me it was out there and I was so creeped out when I found it. I sent Facebook a picture of my ad and they took it down. Then he would show up at my little brother's best friend's job and cry in the store about how he wanted me back. I texted him and told him to stop because it was embarrassing and he told me he was going to kill himself. Then a week or two later his new girlfriend went to my dad's house looking to fight me because he had either been messaging her as me telling her to fight me or that I wanted him back. Then another time, he sent his cousins to my house, one girl and her friends, to beat me up, and one guy, to send me a note. I had to move. OMG, that guy is crazy. One of my exes back in high school asked me to throw up into a jar so that he could then put the lid back on and display the jar next to his books and knickknacks. What the frick? Sent me a handwritten letter 2 months post breakup after I had blocked him on everything, consisting of entirely copy-pasted material and signed off with, "I'll be seeing you." Definitely keeping that for the evidence drawer. My ex sat outside my apartment in her car for periods of time to stop women from entering and questioning them, telling them not to talk to me because I was a psycho. She did the mistake of pulling my sister's hair. She competes in kickboxing. I had a boyfriend who in hindsight was pretty controlling. He stopped me from going to a gym that I had been going to for some time before I was even dating him because he didn't like that there was a guy there that I had been interested in once upon a time. So anyway, eventually we break up and I go back to the gym. One night unbeknownst to me, he follows me and then comes into the gym and tries to verbally harass me because he told me I couldn't go here, and as soon as we break up I'm doing all the things he said I wasn't allowed to do. Thankfully a male friend of mine stood in and told him to leave. But yeah, pretty freaking weird. I don't really think pretty freaking weird is enough to cover following your ex to the gym to berate her because she's no longer following the super controlling rules you imposed on her while you were dating. That's borderline murderer crap. My ex would steal my panties from the laundry hamper in my bathroom when he would come to pick up our kid, then try to sneak them back the next time. I figured it out fairly quickly, then wouldn't allow him in my house to use the bathroom when he was picking our kid up. Grossed me out. Not me, but a former friend of mine had an ex who stalked and followed her, and it all came to a head one night when he came to her house and was pounding on the door and refused to leave. She called me and asked me to come over. I lived about 2 miles away at the time, and I'm also a small woman not fit for a fight, so I asked my tall guy roommate to come with. I also told her to call the police because this guy was escalating and circling her house and looking into all the windows, drunk and screaming for her to come out. My roommate grabbed a telescopic nightstick and we rushed over to her house. We got there just as the police arrived, and her ex was just coming back around the house from the backyard, still screaming. So easy to spot. The police spoke to all of us and ended up letting the guy go because he didn't technically do anything violent, and she didn't want to press charges. 1 week later, she was back with him and introduced him to her mom. It was at that point I broke up our friendship. I just can't be friends with someone who attracts and perpetuates that much drama. Unfortunately, that's a common trend when people are in abusive relationships. Look up the trauma triangle and its relationship to abuse victims. I've got 2. Unflinching, unblinking staring during sex. Not only is it weird, it gives off serious serial killer vibes. Another still cyberstalks me after breaking up with him 8 years ago. He finds me on social media. I block him. He makes a new profile and the cycle starts all over. I have everything on private, yet he somehow found out who I was dating a few years ago and proceeded to cyberstalk him as well. Obviously one is worse than the other, but both are definitely creepy. I just got to my mom's after a football game one night, took a shower and got dressed. Remembered I forgot my gum in my truck. Step outside, headed towards my Toyota, and my ex appeared from behind a tree. Scared the FCK right out of me. I asked her what was she doing. She replied, I was just watching you from the window. My reply, for how long? She replied, since you got here. Shivers. You can swear on the internet. We dated for a few months when I was 21. He was 26. It ended and I didn't think anything of it. Started dating a new guy. Moved on. A year or so later, he started texting me about how much he missed me. I was single and figured why not. He met me at a restaurant near my work one day for lunch. We texted a little bit, but in the end I told him I didn't want to date again. It just wasn't a good fit. The text started getting really mean, so I blocked him. He figured out my work email and started emailing me. I had HR block his email address. 2 years later I changed jobs. He figured out my new work email and started the same stuff. I found out that he had gotten married within this 2-year period. I threatened to tell his wife and again blocked his email address. He started blowing up my Facebook and Instagram, so I screenshot everything. Got into my blocked texts and screenshot everything. I messaged his wife and said, you don't know me, but I dated your husband years ago and he keeps trying to contact me. I asked her if she wanted proof and she said yes. I sent her everything. All of it. Some of it was insanely disgusting. It's been 6 years. She is living her best life. He is living with his dad. If I check my blocked texts, there are still text messages coming from him weekly. I have a restraining order. It's been 9 years since we initially dated. That is freaking insane. My ex left notes for me to find in my books. Crap like I will miss you and I will always love you. It's been 9 years and I am still finding this crap. He was really abusive, so it just makes me angry. Also, it still feels like a violation, knowing he was taking that kind of time to go through my stuff like that. Creepy AF. Ex messaged me 2 years after we broke up, said she had something important she needed to tell me and when the time comes she would. Then died. Her kid was 2 years old, but the kid had father who signed papers. We both were with her when she got pregnant. I did not know that. Nobody has any idea what she was talking about or if it was related. Was 15 years ago. Kid is yours, dude. Claimed I tried to murder him with an axe, jumped out the bathroom window, and ran home to mommy. In truth, we argued. We did have axes on the property. It was a farm. We had all kinds of crap. But that didn't hold, because it was a lie, and the patrol officers saw through it. Still had to go to court, because domestic violence, but that was dismissed. Still, can claim to having been held as an axe murderer. 8 months after the breakup and not speaking at all, in that time he sent a birthday present of a cup with a picture of us on. Went through a nasty divorce while taking care of my dad, who was battling stage 4 cancer. My ex threatened to show up at my parents' house, where I was living, to take care of my dad, and kill himself. He also tried to pay his friend to kill me and cut off my legs and found every way possible to harass me online and say he hoped my dad still had cancer. My dad passed away 2 weeks after my protective order was granted. I'm sorry for your loss. Looked through my window while I was changing. We were in high school. I caught him watching me and he started bawling. I spent an hour comforting him after he had peeped on me. We dated for another year after that. Catholic guilt, man. I once woke up to my ex, then boyfriend, humping my leg. Same ex spent the whole week after the breakup sending me poems, begging me to take him back, stating he doesn't care that I don't love him anymore, that I couldn't do this to him after all our time together, being with him for less than 4 months. Full stop. Blocked him. His mom wrote to me to ask me why I dumped her son. Jesus Christ. His mom wrote to me to ask me why I dumped her son. OMGLML. That's a little too much involvement. Rape me. We had some common friends after the breakup, and one of them decided to bring my ex along on a night out. After we came back to my friend's place, and decided that all the girls would sleep on the king-size bed, all the boys on the sofas. I fall asleep on the sofa. However, I wake up to my ex trying to put my dong inside of her whilst I slept. Apparently it is okay because it was just so my then girlfriend would leave me and I'd come back to her. Instead it just meant that I can't sleep around any people except for my wife without waking up constantly. Named her firstborn child after me. This was almost 2 years after we broke up. I just tell myself that I have a cool name, and anyone would want it for their child. Other parties are not convinced by my logic, lol. What's your name? Not creepy in the stalker way, but my ex once said if what they say about people growing up to look like their parents is true, then I'm in for a treat. I know someone that has my mom's a MILF, so I'm an investment on their Tinder profile. An ex of mine began referring to herself with my last name, as if we were married. This was when I was an undergrad and had absolutely no intentions of tying knots other than my shoelaces. Not long after her decision to take my last name, she stopped taking birth control and failed to inform me. I only found out because a mutual friend of ours, more her friend than mine, casually mentioned it to me, as if I had known. I noped the frick out of that relationship not too long after. That friend knew what they were doing 100%. Old high school crazy girlfriend was so heartbroken she would egg and vandalize my mom's car. Poor mom that she would take it out on her. High school girlfriend cheated on me and we broke up. Turns out that she got pregnant from that other guy. She spread a rumor that I was the father. For a couple of weeks, before the truth came out, I was getting a lot of hate and discontent from her friends. My ex tried to break into my house and decorate my room so I can finally see what I've lost. We had broken up for 3 months. Stalk me. I didn't know it, but they were driving 40 miles every day to drive by my house to see if I was home. They would sit outside the house and wait for a while to try and catch me. They called me often and tried to get me to go out with them often even after I told them no. Had to rush home from a friend's birthday party one night cause she said she needed me. Came home to her sitting on the kitchen floor with knives arranged around her in circles. Still gives me the shivers 5 years later. She just needs some help mastering the art of alchemy, no big deal. Tried to get me to pass out during sex, without prior or in real time consent. Was a very, very confusing half hour, tell you what. Oh god, that's horrifying. I hope you're okay. He would always freak out when I didn't call him for at least 2-4 hours every day. He would then proceed to call me non-stop until I answered to get an explanation. I went to his birthday party and he pulled me aside to tell me he thought we were drifting apart and that we should call more. I told him that I had a life outside of him and that we already text back and forth all day long and that I call him whenever I can to talk. Surprise, surprise. He broke up with me the next week. Like, dude, my entire life doesn't revolve around you now that we are dating. Get over yourself. He was super creepy and I'm glad that I got out of that relationship before things progressed any further. Younger me was an idiot for putting up with that for that long. Older me is much more badass and would have stopped that within the first week. Standing in front of my window all night, whistling and calling my name. or putting a single rose in front of my apartment door. Not the house I was living in, the apartment on the second floor. He had no key to the house itself, so no idea how he got in. It was always there when I left for work early in the morning. She started stalking and harassing me after I dumped her, a year later, and I still get random letters and emails, new accounts, obviously, from her. She's also started contacting other exes of mine to get info about me. One of them called me to give me a heads up. Props to your ex for looking out. Threatened suicide if we didn't get back together. I always thought I'd feel some sort of moral or emotional turmoil if that happened to me, but it just felt like an impotent attempt at manipulation. He locked me inside his bedroom from the outside and only let go of the doorknob from his side after I was hysterically crying, begging him to stop. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.